No one is talking about the Detroit Tigers, and they should be, because they're the hottest team in baseball right now, and if they make the playoffs, that would be the most incredible story of this Major League Baseball season. I know I've been all in on the Padres here, but Detroit is really making some shockwaves, so I'll break that down and much more on this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. Welcome in, everybody, to 3 Up, 3 Down. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, and today we'll be talking about the Detroit Tigers for maybe the first or the second time on this channel. It doesn't happen too often, but I have to give them some love because they have been the hottest team in baseball lately. They're only a half game back of a playoff spot in that wild card race, and what a story it would be, having traded away a lot of guys at the deadline, having Javi Baez on your team making a ton of money and not really contributing anything to where they're at now. Maybe the AL Cy Young favorite in Tarik Skubal, and then just a bunch of other guys on the team that are really doing some great work out there. So shout out to Detroit. But before we get into the video here, I want to let you know that around 97% of you watching are not subscribed. So if you could go ahead and hit that subscribe button, it would mean the world to me. It allows me to make daily content like I do for you guys. So go ahead and do that. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me out a ton. So let's get straight into the video here. Let's take a look at the standings in the wild card race of the American League. So Minnesota lost yesterday, and Detroit is now a half game back after sweeping the Kansas City Royals. So they're not even that far away from the Kansas City Royals after picking up the 3-game sweep and doing it in Kansas City nonetheless. I mean, what an incredible run that they have been on. They were hovering around 500. Now they're 7 games above. And Tarik Skubal is a big reason for that. There's no doubt. And the hottest team in baseball right now, the Detroit Tigers, finished a sweep of Kansas City tonight. With Minnesota getting walked off, Detroit is half a game back of an AL wildcard spot, and then he shows off the standings. However, Kansas City and Minnesota own the tiebreakers against Detroit. So you're essentially a game and a half back of them at this point because you need to finish ahead of them. If you tie, then obviously those teams would make it in before you. But nonetheless, the fact that they are in this situation after being sellers at the deadline, maybe even being linked to trading away Tarik Skubal, I mean, they've made some significant strides. They sent down Spencer Torkelson. We're wondering where the offense is going to come from. Matt Vierling has been good. Parker Meadows at the top of that lineup, very good as well. And, of course, Riley Green, he's been really good all season long. So they do have some weapons, but right now it feels a lot like a team that is just overachieving at this point, and that's okay. I'm sure Detroit fans are going to take this all day long and twice on a Sunday because they were not expecting this. And Tarik Skubal to win the Cy Young, as great as his stuff is, we haven't really seen this level of sustained dominance from him, and that's been the most impressive thing for me, which I'll show you right here. The Detroit Tigers making the playoffs should be the MLB story of the year, and I agree with that. Their own organization almost gave up on them at the trade deadline. I can't get over what they are doing with next to no superstars. It's Skubal and a bunch of scrappers. Well, Skubal is a superstar, but the thing that separates him from, let's say, position players is that he's playing once every 5 days, and he's having the impact. Like, he's going to win the Triple Crown, most likely, for a pitcher's sake, which is insane, and it shows how valuable he truly is every 5th day. But what are you doing in those other 4 days leading up to a Tarik Skubal start? Like, I know he's great, and you win pretty much every time he's out there, but they're finding different ways to win. So yeah, it is Skubal and a bunch of other guys, but at the same time, it's not, though, because Skubal's only playing 20% of your games. So where are you getting the rest of that production from? And they're finding it. They've been finding it all season long. I mean, it's just been amazing to watch. I love stories like this, as this tweet pinpoints. I love teams like this. And it just gets me excited to see small market teams that, I wouldn't even say small market, teams that no one really pays attention to, that are cast off as afterthoughts, make these kinds of adjustments and make these kinds of strides and have superstar players, or have one superstar player that is very committed to the current roster and the current team. I love these kinds of stories. It gives me hope as a baseball fan. It really does. And we take a look at Skubal's stats here. As I mentioned, he's probably going to win the Triple Crown in the American League. He's 17-4 with a 2.48 ERA and 221 strikeouts in 185 innings pitched. The strikeouts, ERA, and wins, that is what determines the Triple Crown. He is leading in all of those. ERA plus 65% better than league average. His FIP also the best, which is fielding independent pitching, which is also the best in the American League. He started 30 games. He's been durable, only given up 140 hits. And the guy is just fantastic. The whip is below 1 as well, which is nuts. I mean, he's one of the premier players in all of baseball. He is a lefty who throws 99 to 100 with the nasty changeup, nasty curveball. He can do it all out there. 17-4 on the bump. I know that it's not a pitching stat necessarily, the wins and losses, but I always find that impressive when a guy can do that and give his team a chance to win every single night, because they're not world beaters offensively. But Tarik Skubal makes sure that he keeps his team in the game. And let's take a look at the only pitchers in the 2000s to win the Triple Crown. It hasn't been done since 2020, the shortened season, so an asterisk next to that one for Shane Bieber. And Justin Verlander lasted in 2011 alongside Clayton Kershaw. It's a pretty cool feat right there. Jake Peavy, Johan Santana, and Randy Johnson, and then Roger Clemens in the late 90s with Pedro Martinez. So it doesn't happen too often. Of course, maybe there were a few better pitchers back then, or maybe there are more better pitchers now. I don't know. I don't know how to chalk this up, what to chalk this up to, but regardless, Tarik Skubal is probably going to win the Triple Crown. He's definitely going to win the AL Cy Young Award unless they give it to Emmanuel Clase, who's having an amazing season in his own right. However, if the Tigers make the playoffs, you got to believe that Skubal is a pretty big reason for that, having gone 17-4 so far on the bump and given his team a chance to win every single night. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. I wanted to show the Tigers some love because I haven't done that all season long. And honestly, that's on me. I've been riding this wave of the San Diego Padres, who have now been coined as my favorite team that is still left in the playoff race. So I'm all in on the Padres, but you know what? I got to have an American League team too. So I'm all in on the Detroit Tigers, and hopefully they can make the playoffs and Tarik Skubal can continue his amazing season, and they can continue their amazing season. But that'll wrap it up. Thanks, guys. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me out a ton. So go ahead and do that. And shout out to Baseball Town as well for supporting this channel. Would not be possible without them. They're your one-stop shop for everything that you need baseball or softball related, whether it's cleats, gloves, batting gloves, bats. They got you covered. The best equipment at the most competitive prices. And if you're not close to Canada, check out their website, baseballtown.ca. If not, I'll see you tomorrow.